Is it really easy on the left? I'm a left-hander myself, so I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. Oh, it's so easy on the left. Left-handers have the world. And the reason I'm talking about it today in this video is we've seen the first two PBA events essentially be dominated by left-handers. In the first show, the PBA Players Championship, we had 3 left-handers, although obviously a right-hander in Brandon Bonter won, but it was still a good week for the lefties. But it was the second event, the Pete Weber Classic, that saw 4 left-handers out of the 5 players who made the show. Those players were Hayden Stipich, Graham Farr, Matt Russo and Justin Knowles. The lone righty was Thomas Larson. But when you look before the show, during qualification and of course match play, the lefties seem to have it really good. And spoiler alert, if you didn't see the show, Graham Farr did win this event and he bowled just incredible, but not just on the show. In match play in particular, he was sensational, and I want to point out to begin with, in the first round of match play, when he bowled against another lefty in Eric Jones. Now, Farr was actually bowling on the same pair for that match as he was on the telecast, and he clearly loved that pair because he bowled 259, 300, 277 and 290 in a 4-game match against Eric Jones, and it was a best of 7 match, and Farr would win 4-0. But the crazy thing was, Eric Jones bowled really good himself. He went 242, 288, 248 and 213. And the game 2, when Farr bowled a 300, that's when Jones had a 288. So Jones was very, very unfortunate to just run into Farr, on an absolutely amazing pair for him. He bowled really good in the match to get him onto TV against Tom Smallwood, again winning 4-0, going 259, 246, 269 and 269. Then when he got onto the show in his opening match against Thomas Larson, he had the front 7 and was only stopped by a stone 9-pin, a really unfortunate shot. Otherwise, we could have been looking at a 300 game for the second week in a row. He finished with a 268 that game and then bowled really well in the title match, shooting a 258. Now, that was the same pair as I mentioned when he just ran over Eric Jones with a ridiculous 4-game total. That meant that over those 6 games on that pair, he actually averaged 275. I mean, that's pretty much unbeatable. So Farr was literally just unstoppable really throughout the entire match play and on the step ladder. And he was playing a little bit of a different shot to the other lefties. And even though he'd come on and there'd been a couple of other lefties there bowling on that pair, it just didn't affect him. He was using urethane quite straight and just had such a good look. The other lefties tried more to use reactive, didn't really end up going so well for them. And because Farr bowled so well, the 1 seed, Justin Knowles, made the decision to try and stop Farr. And this caused quite a bit of debate online because what Knowles did was actually to pick up a sanded bowling ball and spend his practice shots on that pair, just literally trying to burn up the line, try and affect Graham Farr, who was using urethane. This move was criticised by some who felt it just wasn't the right thing to do, from a sportsmanship point of view. And the argument was that really Knowles should have been just focusing on what he can do. He's a guy, he's not been on TV that much, certainly not in comparison to Farr, who's made quite a few shows in the last season. But really, this is not a big deal. This stuff goes on all the time in bowling. And I don't think it really would have phased Farr at all, because especially on a pro level, this is just what happens. They are both trying to break the lanes down for themselves, but also in a hope to affect the other player's line. Me personally, I don't know if I would do this, especially if I was going onto TV. I think I would be too focused on myself, to be honest, to be worrying about the other person. At the end of the day, it didn't do anything. It didn't help Knowles at all because Farr just continued to bowl really well. It looked like on the right lane in the first shot that suddenly his ball overreacted, but to be honest, I thought that this just was a bad shot. It looked inside to me, and then he started to throw it a lot better, and then shot a 250 game. So all it ended up doing really was causing quite a bit of debate. I mean, again, the other side of people, they didn't have a problem with it. They felt that it's just part of the game and almost a little bit like defense in bowling. But that was just something interesting that happened just before the title match. So Fach really ran over the competition and dominated the tournament, and he really deserved his 3rd career title. He also made the show from the Players' Championship, so what an excellent start for him. But like I said earlier, it wasn't just Fach who was bowling well. He wasn't the only left-hander. We obviously had the 4 left-handers who made the show, but as I touched on, outside of that in the match play rounds, you had players like Eric Jones who bowled really, really well. Packy had a decent run. Who else? Oh, Anthony Nair as well. Yeah, and other lefties as well who bowled really well, but those are the sort of standouts. I think the pattern itself, clearly, the lefties really enjoyed that one. It was the Dick Weber pattern, which is 45 foot in length, and it now means that that's 2 weeks in a row where the lefties have had it pretty good. So what's going on here? Why do the lefties appear to be dominating at the start of the season? Is it really easy on the left? Well, I just want to say this. At the moment, I think we have got some absolutely amazing left-handed bowlers. Probably, I'd say, some of the best we've had for a long time. To me, it feels also as well, you've got a lot of young, upcoming bowlers who are left-handed. And it's almost starting to feel like that time around the mid-2000s onwards when you had all of these lefties who were just dominating. You know, players like Patrick Allen, Mike Scroggins, Parker Bone III, Ryan Simonelli, Rhino Page, and they really did dominate on the tour, particularly someone like Patrick Allen, who was, you know, one of the best players in the 2000s. He was so good. And when they got lined up, they were just unstoppable. So I think that is a big element when we look at the players who are at the top of the PBA now in terms of left-handers. Well, let's think. You've got players like Jesper Svensson, obviously Graham Farr, who is quickly establishing himself as one of the best lefties, probably the best one-handed lefty on tour right now. Eric Jones, another player, Packy, players like Matt Russo and Justin Knowles as well. There's so many to list, and that's without even mentioning the up-and-coming players like Anthony Nair. So I think that is a big element. It's very easy to say, well, the lefties have got it easy, you know, they're making the shows, but these lefties are not just there, in my opinion, because they're left-handed. They are very, very good. I can only compare it to that period of the 2000s where you just had all of these lefties who were just so good, and when they got lined up on that left-hand side, the shot would just stay for them, and that's it. They're going to score, just like Farr did. When he gets lined up, players like that, same with Jesper, any of the left-handers, when they get lined up, they will go on a run and they will score, and therefore they will be very difficult to beat. That being said, it is surprising that we've had so many left-handers make the show in the first 2. Perhaps it won't be that way throughout the entire season. I think it's a little bit early to tell whether the left-handers are going to truly dominate throughout 2026. But already after 2 events, people are getting quite worked up and saying, oh, the left is easy, the PBA need to figure out why there's such a disparity and fix that. But I think it's a little bit early to really make that conclusion. I might be biased being a lefty. I mean, I can say obviously, yes, of course there's an advantage. As I said, when you get lined up and you've got that side to yourself, chances are you're going to score. But what you've got to remember as well is it can work the other way. So what tends to happen, I think, is it's either all or nothing. You tend to have all the lefties bowl really well and make good runs because the lanes are playing well for them and they can get lined up and the shot stays. Or the other side of it is sometimes you need to be able to break down the lanes, especially on some of the really tough patterns like we're going to see at the US Open this week. So it'd be very interesting to see how the lefties do at the US Open because a shot like that, the patterns they're using, you're going to need to break down the lanes really to be able to properly score. And that's when it can become quite challenging for the lefties, and then you'll just see almost no lefties who are in the hunt for a title in that particular week. So that's how I see it. It really can be all or nothing sometimes. And we saw that, I think, last year. They did try and shut the lefties out, and it was successful. It almost went too much the other way. The lefties at one point felt like they had no chance. It was just too difficult. It is very hard getting the balance. But I think when you've got such a disparity in left and right-handers, always going to have that situation where there's some weeks where the lefties have the shot and that's it. They just score. And I think that's what has happened in the last 2 weeks. So I don't think there's any major changes need to be made. I think that's just how it runs. That's my opinion. I just think it's a statistical thing. And it's just so happened that these first 2 weeks, the lefties have done really, really well. But let's see how it goes from here. And as I said, I think the US Open is going to be a very good test. We will see just how the lefties fare on these kind of patterns where potentially you do need to break them down to be able to score. And just to summarize, I guess I will say that regardless of left-handers, right-handers, one-handers, two-handers, etc., just look at what Graham Farr has done at the Players' Championship and then what he did last weekend at the Pete Weber Classic. Doesn't matter whether he's a lefty or a righty, he bowled absolutely insanely well. I mean, to average like 275 on that one pair over 6 games. And apart from that, he bowled so well anyway. To be able to bowl like that, score like that, and bowl well, you look at how he actually bowled in the semi-final and the final. He was just locked in and making really great shots. So to me, it's got nothing to do with being a left-hander because he outperformed the rest of the field. It's simple as that. The other players struggled to figure out the lanes, particularly the left lane. That's something we saw with Justin Knowles in the title match. And surprisingly as well, I didn't mention that Knowles decided to use reactive, which was very surprising to me because apparently he had used urethane throughout most of the week, but decided to go to reactive. And to be honest, it looked okay on the right lane. On the left lane, he didn't seem to have any sort of look. And I was surprised he didn't try and mimic what Farr was doing and try and use urethane on the similar sort of line. But out of the players we saw on the telecast, Farr was the best, head and shoulders above them, and he deserved to win. It's as simple as that. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think the lefties have got it too easy right now, or do you think this is almost a sort of a freak statistical start to the season, and that as the season goes on, it will start to level out? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's going to bring us to an end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this one, and if you have, I'd really appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button below. Well, that will do it from me for today, and as always, thank you bowling fans, and see you all next time.